Depicting the landscape through photography has always been a space of contestation. How do photographs shape the way we think about our environment?
Alex, can you tell us what's interesting about the format of the print that we're looking at right now?
This is unusual size for a photograph from the early 20th century, and we photo historians call this skull plate. This is a project by the Dutch government in the Netherlands. The purpose of this mass-produced skull plates was to introduce the different aspects of life in the colonies to the school children in the Netherlands. So you will have different kind of photograph from the pristine landscape to the industrial landscape, also different aspect of life like the life of the local, for example. And this is not unique to the Netherlands, but also quite common among the colonial powers at the turns of the 20th century. So this skull plate, you will find them on display in the classroom.
Right, so they're educational materials.
It is educational materials, but more importantly, in my opinion, is to help the school children to familiarize that this is part of the Netherlands. This is the Netherlands East Indies, as they officially call it. So you feel that you have this kind of ownership of the colonies because, as you know, it's 12,000 kilometers away and then with different climates. So this sense of belonging through the photographic representation.
So can you tell us what we are looking at here?
So this is very, very typical of what we call the industrialized landscape in the colonies, where there is a harmonious combination between the pristine tropical landscape and ambience fused with the notions of modernity. And this is highly staged photograph. You can see how these two trains somehow collide on the railroad, and that creates some kind of this sophistications of not only Dutch engineering work, but also Dutch rail system in the colony, in this case, in Java. At the same time, we have this kind of sensation from the steam coming out from the locomotive. Not to mention the way in which the photographers create some kind of visual dialogue between the curve of the bridge and the curve of the roads. So here, the photographer deliberately used this railroad as the new horizons, metaphorically and literally, of this newly modernized landscape, but at the same time, retain these exotic, romantic ideas of the tropical forest. Very well done.
Yeah.
Alex, we were just talking about how many of these photographs were staged. Could you help us understand, maybe how this picture was put together?
Photographs from this period, particularly outdoor photograph, they are usually staged. So this is a photograph of quina plantation. I would like to think that the photographer selected the quina plantation because of the straightness of the tree that creates some kind of order. This indicates the modern plantation, the modern agro plantation that become very, very good to make money, to put it that way. And the presence of the people in that photograph also indicates change. There's change, the economic system change, the human nature relationship also change. So those people who used to be gatherers in the forest, for example, now become the planters. Also maybe they were farmers or peasants, now become the workers. When we talk about the colonial photography, we talk about the power relationship between the photographer and the sitters, right? The idea that photographers always have a full control of the scene. In this photograph, you can see this lady, she stare back to the camera. I don't know for sure whether she was directed by the photographer or not, but I would like to think that this is one of the way the colonial subject in the photograph try to impose their agency by looking at the camera. And if you can see the detail, she's in between smiling and not smiling. So in other words, try to impose her individuality rather than being part of the group of the workers.
This collection of photographs are quite different from what we have looked at earlier in terms of scale, in terms of format. Can you tell us more about, the photo album, this particular one?
Yes, like you said, this is a photo album, a collection of photographs based on specific theme. And this is what we call a corporate album. So usually living directors or deputy directors will get this photo album as the souvenir to take back home to the Netherlands. For the photo studio, this is promotional material. This is what I can do so they can find a new commission from different company. How can I photograph these plantations in different way? I can offer a different way of representing the industrial landscape, retaining the notion of the pristine landscape, but at the same time imposing the modernity brought by the industrialization.
That's a very interesting mix of very industrial scenes, but also very picturesque ones.
Yes,
right?
yes. The picturesque is the key. For example, this one, as a documentation, it's documenting the process of tobacco. But at the same time, from the photography perspective, this is backlighted. That's a big no, because it's against the light. You should follow the light. This is against light. The only thing that you can think is for artistic reasons, to highlight this grid behind this, to highlight this different kind of structures crisscrossing the plant, and also you can see how this order, this row of the workers somehow in line with this square here.
Speaking of human figures, what I noticed is they are used as a device to show order and hierarchy. So the colonial figure in uniform is always sort of positioned higher than the locals, or in this case, to show proportion.
Yeah, the main functions of human figures in the landscape photograph is to give the sense of scale. That's usually how human utilize in the landscape, either painting or photograph. But here, the presence of human figure also employ as the insignia of conquering the landscape. Yeah, that I conquered this landscape. And if you notice the human figures here easily differentiate between the white colonialists and the local, because the white colonists wearing white to keep cool in the heat of the tropic, whereas the locals usually they're bare-chested and they're dark because of the sun. Also that creates some kind of hierarchical orders from the dark to the light. So that's a clever play as well. I want to draw your attention to this as well, because this is a very, very symbolic, at the same time very, very aesthetic. This is the whole valley that has been conquered. All the tree has been cut, but at the same time we can see the remain of the cut tree, the fallen trees, if you like. So the cut tree, almost like a tombs, the tombs of the dead tree, and within this death, within these cemeteries of the tree, you can see the tobacco plants start to grow. So this is like the new life, the new modern life created by this colonial agro-industry. That's a very, very symbolic if you want to think in that way.
So Alex, in your view, how has the advent of photography changed or transformed the way in which the landscape in Indonesia has been constructed?
The way photography changed the perceptions of Indonesian landscape is because of its reproducibility. So because it can be reproduced infinitely, then it guarantees the wide circulation. Because it's widely circulated, it easily develops certain canonized construction of the landscape as part of the geography lessons, as part of the constructions of the imaginative geography of the colony that they possess. And that kind of imagination also, ironically, influence the people in the colony itself. So that's the complex role of photography in these constructions of Indonesian landscape at the time in discussion. you.